Hello. Welcome to the very first episode of the In Becoming podcast. I'm not going to lie, you guys, I'm really nervous. I just stuttered. I'm really nervous right now. When you post on Instagram Reels, you're only posting for like 60 to a 3 minute interval. And so people get to see a very small sliver of who you are. Whereas with long form content, we're really laying all the cards on the table. Like, you and I are going to be real close after this podcast. I'm nervous because it's something I'm brand new at, but also there's always what if people think it's stupid, or what if I'm not good at it? But realistically, I'm not going to be good at it because it's my very first time doing this. And I work with a lot of women who are maybe new to the gym, and that's also always a big concern. Like, what if I look stupid? What if I don't know how to execute the workout properly? Or what if I mess up? And I always tell them, messing up, looking stupid, feeling stupid is a prerequisite to growth. I've wanted to start a podcast probably since the ripe age of 6. I vividly remember watching the shit out of iCarly. I loved it so much that I went up to my mom one day and I was like, Mom, can we make a website? Mind you, this was back in 2006 or 2007. First of all, my mom didn't know how to make a website, but B, I was 6 years old. What was I going to talk about on the podcast? Polly Pockets? So on one hand, I wish Mom would have given me that head start. Maybe we could have been Call Her Daddy. But also thank you, Mom, for not letting me post videos on the internet as a 6-year-old. The catalyst to actually going through with this podcast and buying the equipment. For a few months, I was honestly struggling to make content. I was trying to plan out my monthly calendar and I just couldn't do it. I'm not who I used to be, but I'm not quite where I want to be. I'm in that weird gray space, and that's actually where the name of this podcast was born, because I realized that that's what most of life actually is. It's the messy middle part. It's the part that nobody wants to talk about. It doesn't look very impressive in the moment. And it's so interesting because people always like to glamorize the destination. I'll be happy when I have a 10K month, or I'll be happy when I have this job, or when I date this girl. And listen, I've lived in the trenches. I've literally been someone who was drinking and partying every single day. I've struggled with eating disorders. I've had mental health issues. And now I'm someone who runs a business, who's moved across the country, who has this whole new life. And from the outside looking in, people might think she's doing pretty well for herself. Although I think I'm a little bit more confident now, when I got here, though, it didn't feel different. Didn't magically fix this big gap or fill the void. So that's why I started this podcast. That's why it's called In the Becoming, because we're always in the becoming. And just depending on where your compass is pointed, you're either actively becoming renewed or you're actively falling into old habits. One thing that I was grappling with when I was struggling to make the content, and I was honestly just in this very dark, stagnant place, is that to not put so much pressure to become this certain idealized version of yourself, but to actually just be present and honor the evolution that's happening in the moment. So this podcast is about that. Nervous system rewiring. It's about discipline without self-abandonment, emotional patterns, the relationship between your body, your past, your present, your future self, with food and with exercise. So in this first episode, I want to discuss something that's very close to me, and it's honestly something that I've struggled with for most of my entire life and every single stage of my life, and that is the not enough wound. It's as simple as it sounds. It is the consistent feeling that you are not enough. Not enough for other people, not enough for yourself, not enough for different opportunities, not beautiful enough, not worthy enough, smart enough, not capable enough, not lovable enough. And this feeling, it doesn't just stay in your head. It plays out in every single circumstance, in your career, in your relationships, in your personal life. And for me personally, this has been one of my biggest core wounds, the one that I have to consistently work through over and over and over again. There's this idea that we're sold on social media that our healing journey has this definitive end, when in reality, I think your core wounds, whatever that may be, they are always going to be there. But over time, we can lessen the impact that they have on us. And so it's not about eliminating the wound entirely, it's just about understanding it and meeting it with compassion and patience. And so the first time I remember feeling like I was not enough was literally my first day of kindergarten. This is because I didn't know how to make friends. I was very anxious. I think that just comes from the environment that I was grown up in. Like I was not present. I was always focused on preserving the safety. I was also an only child, so I just didn't have a lot of social interaction before that. And even though I couldn't name it then, I was like 5 years old, I didn't know the feeling. Looking back, it was this feeling of, I always felt different, like I wasn't a part of the pack. And I think it stemmed from like this deep sense of insecurity. Like I was not confident in myself whatsoever. And that energy followed me through my entire life. It followed me through school. I never like stood up with my shoulders back. I never talked to people. I never raised my hand in class. Even like into middle school, I just consistently remember wearing super baggy clothes, trying to hide my body. I started wearing makeup probably when I was in the 6th grade, and not for like fun self-expression, but because I was literally trying to hide my skin because I was so insecure of it. High school, that was rough too. I don't talk about it a lot, but I did not have like many friends. Like a consistent friend, probably never. And at the time, I blamed other people. Like, oh, like these people are just like too preppy and stuck up. Like they're just assholes. But the truth is, like, it was also on me. I didn't put myself out there to be heard and to be seen. When I got out of high school, I went straight into the car industry. I worked at a car dealership doing sales. And I was working with a lot of men. Anyone who's ever worked in that kind of environment in car industry as a woman knows just like how disrespectful and boundaryless it can. I remember being 19 years old and having like these 40-year-old men just like hit on me all day, every single day. And I kind of had to just like brush it off. And looking back, I stayed really quiet. I don't think I ever set a boundary because I wanted to be liked, although it wasn't the attention that I wanted. It like was attention, period. And I also just wanted to keep things easy and like not ruffle any feathers. I never really had this sense of belonging, so I was willing to sacrifice a lot just to feel accepted. Even getting into coaching, what I do now, I still feel scared to be seen. Like the not enough wound looks different on everyone. For some people, it's perfectionism. For other people, it's people pleasing, it's avoidance, or becoming hyper independent and never asking anyone for help. But underneath it all is the same belief. It is, if I was different, or if I was more of this or better at that, then, only then, I would be worthy. But y'all, here's the kicker. Even when you acquire said things that you think are going to make you feel like you are enough, you hit the 10K month, you get the girl, you still end up never feeling like you're quite enough. I want to share with you a framework that has absolutely shifted my view on the not enough wound. So in something called internal family systems, it says that we all have different parts of ourselves depending on what situation we're in. For example, there's a part of you that wants to go after your goals, but there's also a part of you that's incredibly scared to do so. Or there's a part of you that wants to rest and relax. But then this other part comes in your ear and starts telling you that you're lazy. Through the internal family systems framework, or I'm just going to reference it as IFS, it looks at all of those parts without judgment. The part of you that carries the belief that you're not enough, that is what IFS calls an exile. All this means is that a younger version of you had to suppress something painful in order to keep you safe. Feel that not enough exile come up. That is the younger version of you who didn't feel seen, who didn't feel heard, who didn't feel chosen, and wasn't allowed to be herself, at least safely. And because that part carries so much pain, other parts of you form around it to protect it. Those parts that are there to protect you want to ensure that you never feel that way ever again. Although these parts are trying to protect you, they are trying to be your friend, they're not always a nice friend. They can be controlling, overachieving, or avoidant. And one of the most common ones is anger. So anger, and you guys can probably relate, is what comes up for me when I feel that not enough wound get triggered. And I used to feel very shameful about this because I think with women in particular, anger is seen as not pretty, ugly, and not very ladylike, not feminine enough. Or if you do see an angry woman, like she's crazy, like she's a bitch, or like she's crashing out. Literally everyone has had moments in their life where they act from a place of dysregulation. Maybe for you, it's you shut down or you say something that you don't mean. Learn that anger is not the core issue. There is always something underneath. It is usually that younger version of myself coming up to protect me from something painful that she had once felt before. So for instance, I'm exposing myself right now. There was a situation probably about 2 months ago where Damien, my partner, went to a business meeting. And so after the business meeting, we had set plans to hang out, I think watch a movie or something. And, we don't get a lot of downtime together, so this is something I was really looking forward to. And I think we were set to hang out at like 9 or 8 p.m. 8:30, he wasn't there. 9 o'clock, he wasn't there. 10 o'clock, he wasn't there. I think he ended up showing up at like 10:30. So like just 2.5 hours. And I was so mad. I felt it in my body. Like it was like a pounding in the chest. It was a fire in the chest. Even though logically, I wasn't that mad. Like I understand things come up, and I think it might have even been like a new client. So it's not like he could reach into his phone and be like, hey, I'm going to be late, right? He needed to be focused. I could understand it was a mistake. And to resolve it, I could just communicate that next time, if he has a second, I would like him to just let me know so I'm not waiting. Physically, on a somatic level, I still felt upset. I intellectualized it, I understood it, and for some reason I just couldn't shake the feeling. And this is because even though we can intellectualize our feelings, it doesn't matter because trauma is not a mental phenomenon. It is something that happens physically in the body. It is when something is not properly processed. For me, when Damien came home, I felt the need to get quiet and shut down because I felt upset, really sat with it. And it was because I felt abandoned. And it was because there was this underlying belief of the not enough exile. If he would have communicated or if he would have shown up for me, then I would have been enough. But because he didn't, I'm not enough. If you're reacting emotionally disproportionate to the event that's happening. For instance, if you think that, something upset you, but you should only be at a 3, it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but you're sitting at a 10, it's likely because you're not reacting to the event at hand, you are reacting to something that was unprocessed that happened years ago. So to reverse engineer this, maybe you're mad at your boyfriend. You might actually just be mad at something that happened when you were 16 or 12 or 6 years old. Instances when your emotional or physical needs were not met. So what do we do in these moments? Somatic therapy has absolutely changed my life, the lives of my clients, because now we have the power to go back and to completely rewire our response on a physical level, different triggers or activations. For me, going back to the situation with Damien, when I sat down and I closed my eyes and I tried to sit with the sensation and trace it back to the instance where I could recall feeling that first, have this very blurry memory. I probably was 4 years old or something. It's the first apartment me and my parents me and my mom ever lived at. She was a single mom. I was trying to like play with her with my toys, like with my doll or something, and she was busy. She was like sitting on the couch on her phone or something. And in that instance, I felt like I wasn't enough. As a kid, you can't rationalize, okay, mom's like busy right now. So you, to preserve the safety, you internalize it and you make it a you problem. I wasn't reacting to Damien being a few hours late. I was actually recalling that physical sensation that happened in my body when I felt not enough. It's not just that one situation, it's all of the stackables that happen after the initial situation. So maybe at 4 it was the mom, maybe in kindergarten it was when nobody wanted to play with me, maybe it was in the 3rd grade when I got made fun of for like being a little chubby. I'm not going to talk about stackables in this episode, I can get to it in another one. A single scenario that you have adds on, it stacks up as evidence of the beliefs that you hold about yourself. Essentially, the way that we rewire how we react to things is we get to go back to the exact moment. We get to give ourselves what we needed in that moment that we didn't get to have. Ask the younger version of yourself how they're feeling. You get to give them the experience of seeing and hearing them and holding them. If you grapple with anger or shame or not enoughness, stop meeting that feeling with shame, because that just fuels the cycle and it makes that sensation that you feel even louder. We don't become enough through getting other people to validate us, validate our experiences. We actually become enough by showing ourselves that we've always been enough, that we already are. That's where I'll leave you today. Make sure you follow, like it. And yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Bye.